Päivää. Tämä mikrofoni toimii. Mulla on semmoinen ikävä juttu ensin, että mä tuun tekemään tämän esityksen englanninkieliksi. Ja se syy on niin helppo ja syy, että 2001 tuli vasta Suomeen ja haluan puhumaan suomea. Ja nyt on naimisissa suomalaisen vaimon kanssa tässä 2 vuotta taaksepäin. Ja se on yhden tasoa suomen kieliä, mitä mä luulen, että me hanskaan tänä päivänä. Mutta niitä lämpimiä sanoja, mitä me käytetään kotona, se oikein sovi tähän tilaisuuteen. että minä mielellään puhun toimittajille niillä sanoilla aina. Mutta että minä vedän tämän nyt englanniksi läpi tässä, kokeillaan tehdä niin, että minä jätän tässä joitakin minuuttia lopussa, niin mielellä voi kysyä englanniksi tai suomeksi multa kysymyksiä, niin kokeillaan jollakin kielellä vastata niihin kysymyksiin, jos teillä on niitä. But if we switch over to English, so what I would like to do and share with you here for this about 45 minutes is that I'm going to talk from my perspective. This is very much coming from my personal views and experience because I've been about 12 years in automotive industry in different regions of the world, in Sweden, in Germany and North America, and see what has happened in the automotive industry, at least during the last 15 years, and still following that with interest, which is a completely different type of industry where I was working in for some years ago. Then also baking in my 7 years in the electronics industry, plus a little bit from the pharmaceutical side, because I was running procurement in a global pharmaceutical company for a little bit less than 1 year, but I think that there's a lot of good learnings from that one as well. But what I will do here is that when I'm baking in my experiences from the industries like mentioned here, I'm going to talk initially from Konecranes perspective. Where are we today? Where do we want to be in the future? And from that point come into the role of the supplier. Because I think that it doesn't matter if you're in automotive, pharmaceutical, electronics, or in the machinery industry, the role of the supplier is significant. And I think that many companies, I think in many industries, that's my view, have not really realized that how valuable a supplier can be. But at the same time, you need to be careful is that how you play with this together with the supplier, because I think Mikko's example in the beginning is very relevant, is that there need to be a clear understanding where you want to go from both sides and just not follow like some companies has done in Finland during the last years regarding electronics, is that you're running with an extreme speed forward and you're running high volumes, but you don't really think what is happening around the corner. You're just following your customers, and I think that is one big learning from that industry, is that you need to make up your mind first before you decide to follow the customer. And I think that's my message also in a Konecranes situation. But Konecranes, I'm not going to talk so much about Konecranes because I think that you have seen us, you have followed us. We had our quarterly report. The only comment I can make regarding the quarterly report simply is that, yes, we are in a global recession. Even a successful company like Konecranes is not totally immune against that recession. So I think that we have some issues on our table as well that we need to address to ensure that we stay on the path that we want to be. But if we look at, when I started at Konecranes about a year ago, the first thing I did as a purchasing head is that try to understand the picture of the suppliers. Is that coming from that point that the supplier is critical for the success of a company, is that where were we as a company? I think that by looking at this as-is picture on the left side, you can pick out some keywords from it. We were very successful company. We were growing in many areas of the world through different brands and different operations. But when we looked at our suppliers, we had far too many suppliers. We were quite fragmented, and we were working on different level and with different messages with our suppliers. Because when I went through the ERP systems from all our daughter companies, now considering direct supplies for material and services, indirect supplies for material and services suppliers, we found about 65,000 companies there. We were spending like 1.4 billion last year in an external spend to that supply community. But my thinking directly was that, for God's sake, we are not an attractive customer to our suppliers. Because doing simple math, take 1.4 billion divided with 65,000, nobody would like to be a Konecranes supplier. Is that like a business opportunity? Yes, maybe if you have of course, everybody was not equal among these suppliers because the span between spend on suppliers is roughly between 55 million down to 7 euros per year. So, but it was a huge, wide, deep portfolio of suppliers, fragmented, working in different way with different key messages from our side. So I think that was like the first conclusion. What I said is that we want to grow as a company, but one of the possible roadblocks and hinders for our future growth will be our own behavior and our supplier base. Because we need to manage the supply base in a completely different way to enable our own growth. We have been successful, and hopefully we will continue to be successful there, but we need to manage the supply base in a different way. And that's why I was also joining the company to ensure that we can find a systematical way to deal with our suppliers, give more clear message to our suppliers what we would like to do and want to do in the future, and get them to join our boat in a completely different way. So a lot of more systematical, more harmony, more common processes and tools, and mainly a clear message from our side as a customer to our suppliers what we would like to do and what we expect from the suppliers. A typical example, if I pull out one example from last year, when we just simply looked through in a standard commodity that we were buying in Europe. We have like 13 different uses in Europe for this standard commodity. Either it's ourselves or some of our subcontractors. That is on the horizontal level. On the vertical level, representing different letters there in the blue boxes, is that the number of different suppliers. So you saw that's the way we were working, and that is the way that we are changing right now, is that you saw multiple number of suppliers working with different quality standards, different price levels, and a huge variation in volume between the suppliers. And I think that in the long term, what we would like to see, fewer, so to speak, consumption points inside our company, ensure that we have a more leaner purchasing organization instead of 13 buyers acting independently and few suppliers who can really support us, in this case like in Europe, but also globally. It's a typical example how fragmented it could be. And of course, you can always discuss when you look at this picture, is it a buyer's or a seller's market? I think it was a seller's market also at the same time, because we had similar suppliers dealing with our company in different levels and selling this exactly the same component with a different price. And I always said I congratulate these suppliers that they were able to do it. But hopefully that time is over nowadays. But fragmentation very much. So what we have said as a conclusion of that as-is analysis and also deciding to be is that suppliers are very important for our business mission. Because our business mission is that we are in the business of satisfying customers. And we need to have a model, a clear understanding, and also like an attitude that suppliers are a very important stakeholders for us to be successful in our business mission. You can't separate that one. So we want to really integrate our own people, our own operation, our suppliers to get closer to the customer, to be able to fulfill that mission that we have set for the procurement organization, which is ensuring that we have a sustainable growth and sustainable profitability in the future. And the way we want to do it is that through systematically deal with the suppliers. So if we look at the way that, just quickly, how we will do it, is that first of all, we have different business areas. We're divided in standard, heavy, and service business areas today. And then we have also our regional dimension for the company. So what we want to do is that when you deal with us as a supplier, is that we have this horizontal global procurement organization who will be the channel, sometimes also the roadblock to enter our company, to ensure that we can be consistent and give you as a supplier a clear message what we would like to do. And of course, there are three things that you normally leverage when you set up this kind of global organization, which is category driven, is that, of course, you want to leverage the business volume, but also the third one, or the second one, is that you want to leverage the knowledge from the supplier, but also the knowledge that is existing inside the company. That you can utilize the best practices, what you have internally, but also what is coming from the outside into our own company. And the third one is that talking about like a typical hot topic that all of us, I think, are always having on the agenda is on resources, people. And here you can also leverage the number of resources that you're utilizing for this kind of process. Instead of having several buyers for the same category, we would like to have a couple of few buyers only who is managing the supply portfolio for that respective area towards our whole corporation. So what we have said from that one is that we have a long-term view. We have like a strategic intent or a strategic view how we would like to work. And we have said that, as the headline says, that in a collaborative way together with our suppliers, renew the supply market to ensure that we get the 4 key parameters in place. Always cost competitive, quality, that need to always be there, but I think it's always good to address that one, that quality need to be there, and it's not only about product quality, but it's also fulfilling all other requirements that we have towards our customers. Delivery punctuality is always in place as an important one. For us in our industry, delivery punctuality during the last years has been maybe sometimes the most important parameter from our customers. I think that picture has changed a little bit now during 2009, when some customers are only having 3 requirements on us: price, 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 and nothing else. And the last one is also the innovative level coming from the suppliers. Because I'm always saying that the good supplier for me is not coming and asking me what to do. They should come and tell me what to do based on their own knowledge. And then it's up to us as a customer to evaluate that one. Is that the value proposition that is helping us to be more attractive towards our customer? So I think that, as we agreed in the beginning when I was joining here today, was that to give you some hints how I view it as a purchasing head. One is that I would say the first hint before coming back to the other ones later on is that don't go and ask your customers what to do. You need to know yourself, because you need to decide where you want to go and have a clear value proposition and then go and sell it to the customer. I have had both in the previous industries very much CEOs coming from very large companies worldwide. I'm not talking only about the Finnish industry, coming and having like business reviews together with us and said that, like one guy said that, I'm now up to running the yearly strategy process in my company. What should I put in as a strategic intent, he asked me. My answer to him was that you're definitely asking the wrong guy, because you should tell me what you're supposed to do instead. So for the key messages from this slide really is that the supplier community is a really, really important stakeholder in the environment here to be successful with your customers. And that is what we are now pushing forward very strongly inside Konecranes. And of course also when you do this kind of a change, because I'm not saying that, because now I'm talking like Konecranes here today, I'm not saying that we are perfectly oriented against this one internally as well. Of course, we have a change process ongoing in our company because we know how we have been dealing with the suppliers in the past. We also need to run a change program inside our own company to reposition the supply market closer to us. And I think also that when you do this kind of change program, you need to have clear business benefits inside the company when you run the change. I think it's valid for all change processes, that whatever you do. And we have said that there are 4 bullet points for how we can bring value to our businesses by integrating supply closer. One, of course, is what we are always counting on, bottom line impact. We know that we have a huge supply base, we are spending too little money with most of the suppliers, and we are not utilizing the capability out there. So, yes, of course, we will get the bottom line impact. Second one, we are saying that can we work in a different way with the suppliers and integrate them closer to us, we will increase our customer satisfaction. We have several cases last year where we were in deep problem in able to fulfill the customer commitments that we made because we didn't have components enough in-house. And I think that is how we can improve from the supplier side to ensure that the customer satisfaction is increasing, that to have a strong, reliable supplier base, both on punctuality or delivery precision, quality and cost. Third one that I already addressed was that efficient use of resources internally, ensure that the right players are working with the right issues, working with the right supplies, instead of everybody trying to do everything at the same time. And of course, the last one, when you run a change program, when you increase the transparency or visibility in-house, that is generating additional business benefits, because the more you learn, the more you see, the more conclusion you can make, and then start new initiatives. I think it was quite interesting for us, the debate we created when I showed that previous example of that standard category in-house, is that people are suddenly getting extremely, let's say, creative on explaining why we have differences between different units, instead of saying that, hey, this is an opportunity. We have something to learn from this one. What could we do in a different way tomorrow? And I think that that is also maybe the second hint I have to you suppliers in Finland here, is that maybe using one bad, maybe it's a bad example, maybe it's a good one, but I know that it feels very deeply inside your heart. You know that this Worldwide Hockey Championships is running in Switzerland today. You know what's happening in your mind, in your heart, when it's time for the game between Sweden and Finland. Your energy level is going up like hell, your passion is going up like hell, etc., etc. You're really out there to beat the shit out of the Mats Sundin. Okay, he's not playing anymore, but other players. That's like your mission. I miss that one in the leadership of many Finnish companies. Why shouldn't you have that in the same spirit when you're talking about Germans, Russians, other Swedish companies or Chinese companies? There seems to be like, oh, it's bad times. We don't know what to do. Maybe we should ask the Finnish government for some help. We need to build some walls around our country so we are not importing any Chinese material into our country, or etc. I think that there could be some kind of attitude change there. And I think that it's a national game every day in our business life, and we need to beat the other countries and other companies to be able to survive. Don't go back home and cry in the beer and say that life sucks. That is happening too much, and it's so easy to do it as well. But anyway, so when you run a change process, clear business benefits. And if we look at some of the initiatives now that we try to do with the suppliers, of course, I said 65,000 suppliers in the beginning. Nowadays, when we were cutting through the systems end of March, we had 26,000 companies left. I have said that to be able to run our company globally, including services and indirect or for the operational expenses, we should maybe have maximum 5,000 companies, supply partners working with us, and on the direct side, maximum 700 to 800 companies. There is, of course, we are in the technology industry as well, and when we are in the lifting industry, that let's say that it's not so much rocket science that we need so many special companies. So I think that we need a clear reduction in the supplier numbers for Konecranes during the coming years. So if you look at some of the examples that I'm going to highlight here, what we do is that, of course, one simple way, you can very easily pick the low-hanging fruit, consolidating volumes to fewer suppliers. Let's say that, of course, consequence of that one will be that some suppliers will be the clear winners, while the majority will be the big losers. And when we are looking at supplier base in that perspective, we're looking at the overall competitiveness of the supplier, and where we talk about the 4 parameters: cost, delivery, punctuality, quality, and innovation. And those will be the companies. And of course, if companies perform well like that, second bullet point is that we need to reward them with additional business. Even if the overall volume maybe in 2009 is dropping, but you can reallocate volume to maintain the same volume like in 2008 or even increase it. So I think that those are the easy ones to do, where you can basically do without any homework in the beginning. But at the same time, we know from running businesses is that competition is maybe the most healthiest medicine to improve your company. And what here we have also said on the third bullet point is that we will introduce new supplies and strategic categories as well. Because we need to shake up the supply industry or our supply base to ensure that they wake up, that if they don't wake up, we are ready to do something else instead. Because I can't let our supply base hinder, so to speak, our desired development. And in those cases, it's important to be able to introduce new companies as well. And I think that for us, I use the same logic that we're using in our company today, is that competition keeps you always awake. And that's the same logic in the supply industry. Other examples is that we used with a Finnish company here for inverters, like on bullet point 5, was that we did a value analysis or value engineering project with one of our key suppliers for inverters, a Finnish company based in Vaasan. I think that is even mentioned in the book here. But I think that the intention was really is that what could we do in a different way to increase our both companies' competitiveness? Because I couldn't go, the toolbox of just negotiating price was not a viable solution in that case, because we felt that we are quite competitive already on the price level on those products. But what we went in and said that, what can we do together with you, supplier, and by looking at your cost drivers inside your company, and we can identify cost reduction opportunities within your company, so you can give me 10% back in price reductions. Because I need to maintain my competitiveness against the customers and the competition. So that was a way to, with an open model, doing cost breakdowns from both sides and understanding the cost drivers in the value chain and identifying potentials with the knowledge from both companies. We were quite successful in this project together. I got my targets, and the CEO of that company, Vasa, get his targets. So there are different tools that you can use there. So basically what we said here is that we really wanted to capitalize on the knowledge of that supplier, that experience that they have gained from other industries, that we could also share our knowledge with that supplier. The second last bullet point from the end there also is that looking at the whole supply chain. I think that especially for us, starting with 65,000, now a little bit more than 20,000 suppliers, we need to look at the supply chain as well. Should we control the supply chain, or should we let our suppliers run larger entities of the supply chain? Because we have, number one, we have not all the knowledge of the supply chain. We should know everything about crane and crane business and understand our customers, but do we need to know everything about the whole supply chain, going to tier 1s, tier 2s, and tier 3s? No. I think that's we're also looking with alternatives with other companies, is that instead of having like 25 suppliers in one category, we will have only one, and that supplier will manage that whole supply chain with their knowledge to us, instead of us trying to run 25 different companies. Also, again, a business opportunity for one supplier that could be also a disaster for many other suppliers. And also the last one here is a concept that we have just recently started to discuss, is that many of these previous bullet points is looking at current products, looking at current delivery process, looking at the current supply chain, how to manage a portfolio. But in the long run, what we have discussed with our R&D also is that changing attitude in the R&D programs. Instead of having a business problem that you want to solve internally and putting the R&D organization to work on that one, can we identify some suppliers in our company who we are just presenting a business concept to, and with their knowledge, either off-the-shelf solutions or new development, they will provide much, much more knowledge to our house. Because typically what we have done in our industry, like I think in many of our industries in this room, is that we love R&D, we know how to make drawings, and the only way how we involve the suppliers is that when we're ready with a blueprint, and we are sending the blueprint to them and asking them for a quotation. That we don't ask them the basic question, basically, is that, is it possible even to produce this component in this way that we have been doing the drawing? Because there's a lot, I use that as a teaser internally in our company here now, saying that we believe that we are, and we believe, and we are proud of that we are a good company, and we are proud of our people, and we are proud of ourselves. And we know what we know. But I say that, hey, there are 26,000 companies out there. They have the same thinking about themselves Does it hurt to ask them what they can provide us better than we can do ourselves? That's normally like, no, we know how to do it. We don't know how to do it ourselves. So I think that there's a change process that both customer and seller need to review. That if that could be one of the solutions, how to increase and ensure that you're competitive in the long run. So quickly about the ESI, the early supplier involvement concept, is that traditionally in the middle of the picture, in that big arrow, that's where we started to select our suppliers. I think in the majority of the suppliers will be picked there as well in the future, but some of the suppliers we want to decide on very, very early on concept phases. And really capitalize on that knowledge from the supply market that is existing out there. Of course, it's a question about segmentation of your supply portfolio, which companies are there, which companies are not there in the ESI segment. But I would say that typically in our type of company, but also in our other industries, is that there's maximum 100 companies that you have in that ESI box, or could be a potential player in the ESI box. Because they have really some core competence that you can utilize in a completely different way. But what is happening in most of the companies is that when you propose this one, and I think that that's like my third point to you as well, is that we know how we are educated. I'm not an engineer, but I've heard, at least from many of my engineering colleagues, is that how well we are trained in the different universities of the world. You're basically told that you should be proud of innovation, of doing innovation by yourself and implementing that one. And then we have a poor supplier coming in and say that, hey, I have a better solution for you. That's a typical reaction what comes from engineers and customer companies of yours. It's not invented here. Don't bring that to us. We know that it's not going to work because we have been in this business for 25 years at least. We know what's working and what's not working. You're just a supplier. So not invented here is visible in all companies. And here I would like to say to suppliers is that think about your value proposition, think about what you can provide more, and find ways together with us from the customer side is that how to get that buy-in into the customer company. And of course there are other reasons as well, that you're afraid of leaks. That of course if you're sharing too much with the supplier, is that can you trust the supplier so they are not going to your competitor and sharing that information. But I'm saying that this is, if you have a healthy business relationship with the supplier, you shouldn't be fearing that kind of issue at all. And of course the third one as an example there is that when you go, so to speak, embed too deeply with the supplier, is that's like a lifetime marriage. You can never change a supplier again. But I think it's up to each company really to look at the advantages and disadvantages of working closer with the supplier, and you need to balance the pluses and minuses together and decide what kind of risk you would like to take. We have said in Konecranes that we want to pursue this one and really involve some of our suppliers much more deeper into our own operation, because the goal is only one simple thing. We need better solutions, faster solutions, with shorter lead times, with more competitiveness to our customers, and we can't afford to do it ourselves. Or we don't have the time to do it ourselves. We know that we in lifting business has been, let's say, quite protective from the outside world for some years. But we see now also like in telecom in Finland is that some Chinese players are coming extremely fast. And they are terrible when you look at them, because they have this Suomi-Ruotsi maaottelu winning attitude. They are there to win, and they are competing with half the price compared to us with the same technical solutions to our customers. So what's the option for us? Yeah, we can blame them that the Chinese government is giving them some kind of subsidies under the table, or should we try to do something that we increase our own competitiveness, or have a different type of value proposition to the customer instead of just the price. But I think that this is important also from a supply perspective, is that what can you provide us in a different way, and how can you sell it to us? So if you look at what I would say summarize a good supplier from the experiences from all the industries really is that, what's your own plan? Why are you in the business? And where do you want to position yourself in the value chain? That is many times missing. I have seen some, because this is maybe provocative, but I think it's important to address it anyway. I have met quite many Finnish companies during this year. And of course, like suddenly email traffic is increasing, the brochure materials in your mailbox is increasing, because everybody has faced a recession and everybody wants to sell. But too many companies are in a meeting saying that they start to present themselves, I have this machine, I have that machine, I have that machine, and the capacity of that machine is so many tons, and I have this drilling capacity or that kind of technology in-house. I just tell them, I'm not interested. Because I said, I'm interested to hear from you is that, how can I increase the value to my customer, typical like a port in Finland, or to general manufacturing? How can we together? But there are too many companies trying to show nice pictures of the machine park. I'm not interested, because that's no value for me, because there are millions of machines in the world. And why should your machine be the right one? Think about that one. I think it's a second bullet point really is that to understand what is the need of our customers. I think that's where you can really start to massage our people, myself, is that when you can talk about your value proposition and content to really what the ports of the general industry is looking for, which are our customers. And then when you understand that one, then you understand the third bullet point, then you understand our pain points. Where do we need some help? I think that one industry which I think has always been quite successful in that one is even, let's say in 2009 maybe, they are not so popular in all the cases because they cost you a lot of money, but typically consultant companies. They are not coming and telling you what to do the first thing. They're really fishing and looking and trying to understand your company, where your pain points are, and then they come back with a proposal how they can support you. Maybe that could be one way also to addressing customers in our industry. Really understand the pain points and try to say that I know your problems, I know how to solve them. And I think also the fourth bullet point there is that if you know your game, if you know your strategy, don't be afraid of challenging the customer. I know that there are customers today who doesn't really want to hear some better proposals coming from outside. But I think that that's also an attitude change that is needed to happen both from the buyers and sellers side, is that there need to be a dialogue, not a monologue. And there need to be respectful communication, interaction in both directions in a respectful way. Because I think that we can learn a lot from our customers or from our suppliers. Because I think that should be always on the agenda of myself, and I try to keep that as well, is that every time I meet the suppliers I say that what can we do better to improve the business relationship and improve the result of the both companies. And some companies they're really waiting for 30 minutes before they dare to say something because they don't know my reaction. But I think that we start to talk about opening from our side, and then the bubble is bursting from the suppliers, and they have many issues that they would like to improve together with us. And what we could do better. Long-term relationship, I think that's a mutual understanding from both from the supplier and the customer side really, is that business is long-term and we need to have a long-term view. The challenging also leads very much to proactive delivering and suggesting business improvements. That is also coming back to my point, is that don't come and ask me what you should do. You should come regular to us and share your views to us and say that what we could do in a different way. And of course also, when you're building that long-term scenario, when you're building your strategic roadmap, what is also important coming from experience is that you need to take full accountability for your own supply chain. So that means that you're managing your own business to a full degree and not letting the customer forcing the customer to get involved in that one. I think that that's a competitive advantage, and there are not many companies in across the industries who can really run the whole supply chain by themselves. And the last one, which I value extremely much, have a lot of customers. I have had with a Finnish company some years ago in the telecom one interesting discussion, because they had a goal to increase their sales. When I talked with that CEO, I said, I can help you. I can reduce my supply share to you, because you need to go out and find other customers, because you're deadly dangerous for us. Because if you go belly up, we go belly up very quick as well. And it's not good for any of the companies. And I think that also when you're dealing with many customers, you're gaining experience from other cultures, from other industries, and that is, so to speak, indirectly increasing your value proposition as well to your customer. Because you know what's going on in the world, and you have good reference points and good experiences. I'm not saying that you should go and find out from Cargotec, for example, who is sitting in this room here today, and find out what you're doing with Cargotec, and then you come and tell me. I'm not interested. You should gain the experience overall and create your better value proposition. So it's a short summary of this one. I think for us from the customer side, it's important to understand what's the role of the procurement and what's the role of the supplier base. Important is that the supplier base has a clear, distinct role in the value chain. If you don't know that one, go and ask your customer, what do they expect from you? And then you can ensure that you are in the right position, or you're in to reposition yourself. Understand the customer's customer, so you can really identify the pain points and be supportive in that business development. I think a regular feedback through scorecard is very important, because that's a part of relationship that you need to be able to tell each other how that relationship is working. I think it's very important to have a strong business-oriented relationship, which is basically based on trust, fairness, and openness. Not this kind of soft relationship that we have known each other for years, because I think that the worst supplier that you can always have is that we think that we know that supplier, and that supplier think they know us, and there's no business driver in that relationship. And in most of the cases, that's where the biggest problems are. Trust, fairness, and openness, but based on business, not on other type of relationships. And I think for both us and also the suppliers, that you always need to keep your flexibility. Don't paint yourself into a corner in the long run. I think that what I not mentioned before, but I think that also we want to have multiple suppliers in some categories all the time, and to ensure that, because we can't ensure that everything goes like in the movies with all the suppliers always. We need to have flexibility so we're not stuck anywhere. And we want also to utilize and capitalize really of the capabilities, both of our own people, but also our suppliers. And I think that the last bullet point from my side to you, before we open up for questions, is that when you run this kind of change, and I think that that's my motivation, that's your motivation as a supplier, is that this is a little bit different way of thinking. You can kill yourself and kill your motivation by putting the expectation too high, because this will not happen overnight. I think that it needs to take some time, and we need to respect that time as well. But I think that we need to have the same passion to win like the Suomen Leijonat, and then we will fix it. Thank you.
Kiitoksia oikein paljon erinomaisesti tuosta puheenvuorosta. Kysymyksiä, vaikka minulla pikkuisen aikataulusta myöhemmin.
Mauri, täällä on ainakin yksi, jos on...
Ollaan kohtuullista.
Ollaan kohtuullista, ota sitten kaksi.
Onko kysymyksiä tai ajatuksia? Ole hyvä.
No, my name is Tutu Vekelius-Lehtonen.
Could you wait please for the microphone, because...
Okay, hello. My name is Tutu Vekelius-Lehtonen, coming from the construction or also the building systems industry, YIT. And I'm very interested in hearing your tips on international purchases, because probably you all know that the construction industry is very local oriented, and the challenge is how to make the people's mindset and also the processes more international. Do you have some good experience from your background that you can say some tips or hints? Because as you mentioned that it's better to centralize the competencies, and then the less is taking care of the bigger volumes. But then those less ones has to be more international, and their mindset should be right. And I think that's one of the top challenges there.
Based on the experience from other areas, I would say that the main reason is a quite soft one many times by you're resisting to look for other alternatives, and that is lack of knowledge. And I think that's a human factor that is facing through or coming through during that time, is that you immediately resist something that you're not aware of. And you have a clear perception that that is not good, because you know everything how your suppliers are dealing today in your local environment. So I think that you need to really try to address and show good examples of taking Chinese or Indian companies. Is that to really go through in an open way, is that what are the capabilities of them? So I think that what I have seen many times as a resistance to go somewhere else, because you simply don't know. But I think that the second one is that when you go somewhere else, it's so easy that you just believe that, of course, they know how we are working, because our own people act in the same way like they've been acting with a local company for maybe the last 10 years. And then you try to transfer that knowledge without saying anything to that new Chinese supplier, and they fail immediately. I think that that's why you need to really be careful when you look for alternative suppliers, is that you need to take the time in the beginning, despite that they might have a very, very attractive price and you're hungry to go for it directly. But ensure that they understand you and understand your requirements.
But you think that there is hope just not changing the guys, but you can keep the guys who has been typically local, and you manage to change them thinking international, or is it so that you have to change the guys?
Of course, this is like all development. Some guys are learning and some guys are changing, and some people are changing.
Generalization, but somehow if you have
but I think that what I have seen as good examples, if I take one Konecranes case here, is that I had a buyer in a local country organization here in Konecranes. He had been dealing with local suppliers only. The first impression you get of the guy was that he was so against the change, because he knew his local suppliers. But when you started to talk to him and share with him the global supplier view, what they have been doing in other areas, he was really turning on. He said, Jesus, this is a great development opportunity for me as well, because I get to know more suppliers, I get to know more technologies, and I can make better results for the company. So I think that it needs to be business driven there, and you really need to touch the points that it's business-driven activities, not protecting yourself. I think it's very much up to the leadership of a company as well, how you address that one. Maybe that is the real solution, really, the leadership, because knowing also one example from another company is that when you're really challenging the supply market and you go out for competitive bidding, is that, of course, if you are telling your organization and say that, hey, your price is dropped 20%, but what in hell did you do yesterday? That person will never go out and find a more competitive quote again. You need to say, hey, this is evolutions, great development. I hope that answered your question.
Right, Mikko.
Jos ei tässä, mä haastan sua suomen kieltä nyt tässä näin, mutta saat vastata kyllä englanniksi, mutta kaksi oikeastaan musta tärkeää kysymystä nyt. Ensiksi kiitos erittäin hyvästä esityksestä, mutta ensimmäinen on niin voitko kertoa vähän lisää tästä teidän omasta muutosohjelmasta siitä, että millaisilla insentiiveillä teidän omaa ostoväkeä ja sitten esimerkiksi tuotekehitysväkeä motivoidaan tähän uuteen toimintatapaan? Koska se on ihan keskeinen asia, että millä tavalla heitä mitataan, mistä heitä mitataan, jotta saadaan tämä niin kuin supplier involvement aikaan. Tämä on niin kuin ensimmäinen kysymys, eli missä mennään tuossa ohjelmassa. Toinen on sitten se, että miten te suhtaudutte tämmöisiin niin kuin, että toimittajat yhdessä tulevat teidän luoksenne tarjoamaan yhteisratkaisua. Eli sä puhuit tästä, että otetaan arvoketjun orkestroija roolin voi ottaa joku. Se tietysti voi syntyä silläkin tavalla, mutta se, että 3-4 yritystä, 2 päättävät, niin kun tuntevat teidän tarpeensa, niin tulevat yhdessä jonkun arvotarjoaman kanssa teille. Onko se niin kuin suositeltava niin kuin tapa?
Okei, kokeillaan vastata suomeksi näihin kysymyksiin. Se tärkein motivaatio, niin jos sanotaan, että miten saa tämmöisen muutosprogrammin tapahtumaan talous on oikeastaan, että millä minä olen lähtenyt alkuperäisesti myymään tätä muutosta on siitä, että tämä on yhtiön kasvua ja tulosta vaikuttava aktiviteetti. Se monesti on semmoinen mielipide monessa yhtiössä, että nämä hankintaorganisaatiot on joko central, niin kuin besserwisserit, jotka pyörivät ympäri ja määrittelee hommia ja on itse lämpimiä. Mutta semmoinen pääelementti, joka meillä on tässä, että tämä vaikuttaa yhtiön kasvuun ja tuloksiin ja vaikuttaa meidän asiakkaan. Se on ollut se pääviesti. Totta kai sitten on se, että me ollaan tässä talon sisällä, tässä ketjussa alettu määräämään, että meillä on yhteisiä tavoitteita, miten me mitataan tämä homma. Että jos katsoo semmoinen tärkein mittari, joka meillä on tässä vaiheessa nyt on, että me ei katsota ostohintoja, me katsotaan talon EBITiä. Mikä on EBITin vaikutus tästä programmista? Se on tärkeä motivaattori, koska se on kaikilla on se yhteisenä tavoitteena, jos katsoo Fina-puolelta. Ja sitten totta kai meillä on joitakin prosessimittaria kanssa tässä. Se on me ollaan alkuvaiheessa tässä vuoden aikaa ollut, että me ollaan päästy kaikkiin talon sisällä pikkupesseihin vielä sisälle, mutta se leviää se konsepti ja verkosto koko ajan. Toinen on sitten vastaus, eri hyvä kysymys, että kyllä, se on muutosta ja se on parantamista, että jos tulee jotakin toimittajia meille, niillä on tämmöinen value proposition, niin kyllä mielellään kuunnellaan sitä ja katsotaan yhdessä, että miten se sopisi meidän kanssa yhteen. Selvästi. Se voi olla hyvä idea monessa paikassa, että tänä päivänä ei riitä se voima yksin kokeilla vetää tätä muutosta ympäri. Mutta jos katsotaan vähän Suomen ulkopuolelle muita konepajoja, niin kyllä ne on tosi isoja pelaajia. Ja niillä on sisäinen voima tulee automatiikalla siinä, että jos löytää synergiaa yhteistyössä, niin miksei? Se voi te voitte vaikka olla kilpailija tänä päivänä meille, mutta ei se ole siitä kysymys, että minä suojelen teitä toisia vastaan, että mä voin kilpailla teitä koko aikaa. Kylliksi kilpailu on kumminkin Suomen ulkopuolella. Että se oli vastauskysymys. Toivon, että mä vastasin hyvin suomeksi.
Erittäin hyvin sekä suomeksi selvisit että vastauksista.
Joo.
Nyt ajan puutteen vuoksi joudun rajaamaan kyllä kysymykset tähän, mutta vielä kerran Pekka, oikein lämmin kiitos hienosta esityksestä. Tämä ei jättänyt varmaan ketään kylmäksi. Tuli paljon ajatuksia ja pohdittavaa. Kiitoksia.
Kiitos siitä.
Nyt ohjelmasta sen verran, että siirrytään pikkusen kahvia eteenpäin, eli tullaan tänne takaisin tuossa 10 vaille tuon kellon mukaan. Kahvi on tarjottu tuossa alla.